And away we go, live from the Cincy Light Studios. It is the BCJ Podcast right here on BearcatJournal.com. Brought to you, as always, by our good friends at the Holy Grail. Anytime you are down at the banks, make sure you stop in, get yourself some great food, nice cold beverage, hang out, enjoy the environment down at the banks. And while you're there, make sure you get yourself a nice cold Cincy Light. Every Cincy Light purchased at the Holy Grail, an additional 50 cents will be donated back to the Cincy Reigns NIL Collective. All right, we got a lot to get to tonight. It is signing day, so we have a special guest. We got a basketball game, unfortunately, that we have to talk about from last night. I'm sure, Dave's. Have you calmed down from that one, Dave, or did you not really care all that much?
I'll have comments, but I watched a lot of Tennessee whip the shit out of Syracuse. If you want to know what I really did.
Oh boy! All right, let's get this show on the road. We are joined by our good friend, the GM for the Cincinnati Bearcats, Zach Grant. Zach, you tired? It's been a long day. How you feeling?
I'm good. It's been a long last few days after the season with all that we got going on with the portal coming up, and obviously today was signing day, but these are the times we do it for, so buckle up and let's get it. But I appreciate you guys having me on.
Yeah. Take people through like the final week, the final 48 hours. Like what is the stress level like? What is the anxiety trying to deal with the whims of high school kids and trying to get this thing across the finish line? And how many times do you get a call that's like, oh, hey, by the way, such and such school just called. They came out of nowhere. They're trying to flip or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, I mean, there's sleepless nights, especially down the stretch, and even more so now that signing day is the first Wednesday after the end of the season. So, I mean, all our coaches and us, we're all in season mode, focusing on teams while also focusing on recruiting. And, it doesn't sneak up on you, but everyone's used to having 2 weekends before signing day. So this coincides with a lot of our meetings and retaining our players and like roster meetings in terms of what we want to get done going into the portal, and a lot of planning in terms of how we want to look and play next season. Not to mention the fact that we got signing day on Wednesday today, so like it's created for a hectic week, but it's been fun. I mean, to answer your question, yeah, like now more than ever with the revenue share and NIL playing into it. I mean, not every single kid, but like a lot of our class, it's like questions that we've never heard before. And there's different, players in the game with agents and stuff. And due to the changes with roster sizes and the 105, and it changes the way other teams will take high school players, especially during senior year. So, I felt like this year compared to others, our class was kind of evaluated more by other teams, and we had to like fend off more teams than usual down the stretch. But and we win some, we lose some, and there were some guys that we thought we had a real good shot at late that we didn't quite get in the boat. And, there's no trophy for finishing in second place. So, we're pissed off about that. But I do think it's a testament to the work our coaches did and our recruiting staff, certainly our evaluation staff, in both that we were able to keep a lot of the guys that it came down to the stretch for, but also that we have built a class that was trying to get picked over by the Big Ten and the SEC. And we won more battles in keeping those guys on the class than we didn't. And, to the public eye, I think, they see who gets offered by who and this and that. But like down in the last few weeks of the class, like there were 5 or 6 kids that, they weren't posting their offers online, but it didn't mean they weren't on a visit to another school last weekend, or, something was happening down the stretch where there's either money thrown around or just different scenarios we had to fend off to keep them. But I'm proud of the way that our staff handled it. We always kept the mission of how we want to build the roster in terms of the body types we want. Our strategy when it comes to revenue share didn't get compromised by overpaying for a high school class just to look good, like several teams do for publicity. And I felt like we signed a really good class that even more so than the class that just had more snaps on offense and defense than any freshman class in the last 4 years combined. This one is more of a foundational piece. So we're really excited about it. But yeah, it was a hectic week, a lot of long hours, but honestly, it's not work. It's football. It's fun. So
David.
Yes. Well, I was not expecting you to do a press conference today, so some of these questions you've already answered, but some of our folks maybe didn't see it. So I think I know the answer to this already, but the theme seemed to be offense, defensive line. I'm still waiting, though. I'm still waiting for the GM or the coach to come out and say, we're really trying to build this from like the secondary to the wide receivers. Feels like everybody is an offensive, defensive line driven program. But that being said, was that really the overarching theme? Was offensive, defensive line, but maybe even bigger, just size in general?
Yeah, it certainly was. I mean, it wasn't really coach speak. But to answer your first question, like I didn't know I was doing the press conference either until about like a couple days ago, and that was my first one ever. I don't think I did very good on it, but I didn't. I'll have to adjust to that if they're going to throw me in front of the cameras. But no, that was the plan moving forward. Like, last year in the class we signed, we love it. I think it's really good. I think our freshmen have performed well so far, and even more of them will continue to develop. But we had most of those guys committed before, I really stood there on the sidelines and watched us play a Big 12 schedule. And the size difference between our guys and the opponents in the 2023 season was like drastic. And, I've mentioned it before, but like I watched Iowa State come in here and, they looked the part. And we looked physically overmatched in 2023 playing them. So, going into that portal season and then how we were going to drive the next recruiting class, it was, we need to be bigger and there's no excuse. And it had to start with this, in high school, the next class we had the opportunity to was this class, because the one we signed in December had already 75-80% been done by the time we played the games with the commitments we had. So it was a huge emphasis. And obviously, it's an emphasis in the trenches. It goes without saying that those guys are going to be bigger, so when we say we want a big class, like you can throw up any offensive defensive line, we're going to be bigger on paper, but it is the way that they're built that matters to us. Like, we don't want anybody that is short-armed. We don't want anyone that doesn't have growth potential. Not that they don't have to be 330 pounds now, but we want these guys to be 320, 330 without just being fat. And that takes a frame. It takes the hip girth, your thick wrists, like everything. You need big dudes. And I felt like we really got that. And, perfect examples like Jeremiah Kelly from Avon. They play in the state championship, I think this Thursday, tomorrow. And, this dude came to camp. He's 6'2.5". We had 33.5-inch arms. So for a 6'2.5" guy, that's ridiculous. Like, it's like an Isaiah Wynn type arm length. And then, he had like a 6'9", 6'10" wingspan. Like, his frame and growth potential is huge. And he's already 320 pounds, playing both ways, playing 100 snaps a game. But that's just an example. So we tried to do that for every position to get length. That was huge. And I do feel like we attained that.
The funny part there is, Zach, one of our big sponsors is Mio's Pizza in Clifton. And Kelly, that owns Mio's, her son is the starting center for Anderson. So he is going to be lined up across from Jeremiah Kelly tomorrow night in the state championship game. He is a sophomore.
Oh,
So
yeah. I remember.
I joked and said, hey, these guys can't recruit, so he's probably going to stink. Just tell the kid it's fine.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, it's funny how defensive coaches work too. Like Coach Veit, he went through Avon in the spring and was talking about Jeremiah and kind of cued us into him to make sure we get him to camp. And, you know, it turns out he's fighting to have him play like nose for us. And like, we're recruiting him as an offensive lineman. And it's just kind of like they're all like that. But Jeremiah has a unique ability to explode off football and use his hands and really good strength for his age. And, you know, we expect him to dominate that game like all the rest of them he has. So
did you guys notice him at all
tell him to
last
take it easy
year?
on Quinn tomorrow. Just tell him to take it a little easy on Quinn tomorrow.
Text him right now.
Did you guys notice him last year when you were recruiting Caffey? And like what kind of jump did he make from 23 to 24?
Ironically, and I feel like we do a good job of noticing the other players when we're watching all these guys tape. We didn't really. I mean, we had identified him as like, here's number 73. Let's write him down. But he played mostly defensive line last season.
Last year, yeah.
Yeah. So like when we're watching like when I'm watching the cut up of, you know, Jacorian, like it's all offensive stuff. So, and
yeah.
Half the time I'm just locked in on it. But yeah, so we didn't really. It was really like when he came to camp and after we had seen him in the spring, you have to kind of see a guy like that in person to really understand his body type. And I mean, he's a wide dude, naturally big. You know, it's impressive. Like he's an early enrollee, so he's got the chance to come in here and get an extra spring of development, which was huge for him, especially.
I always like when the linemen come into camp and take their pictures with Coach Cardwell and post them on Twitter because he's a pretty big dude, so it gives you an idea of like, okay, this guy's like arms are longer and he's 17 and he's taller already, or not speaking specifically just to Jeremiah, but like when any lineman you can get a realistic, because it's hard to get a realistic point of view when they're, like Chad said, maybe they're going up against some sophomore offensive lineman or defensive lineman, and it's like this, you know, or just an undersized player. So you don't really get an idea of like how big or powerful they truly are.
Yeah. You know, some high schools do a better job of others in terms of like the quality of the video we get to watch. Like if there's an end zone camera that's in HD, like we can get a better body type than, you know, if it's filmed from the sky, you know? So, but like, it's so hard unless you see somebody in person to really know what that, you know, I talk about length and growth potential a lot, to know what their length and growth potential is without, you know, getting up on them a little bit. And the other guy that's great on our staff on that is Coach Stewart. I mean, he's like the prototype for a defensive end. So there really aren't many that look like him. So like,
No.
if they're up there with him, we always show it in staff. Like when we have our offensive and defensive recruiting meetings, we'll, you know, assuming we've seen the kid in person before, we'll show the picture of them, any video we have from the school, and then any camp video we have in the game tape. But you know, when we get one with Walt, it always makes it pretty easy.
I also want to say, Dave, it's good to know that you guys are just like us, standing out there on the field before games in 23 and looking to the right and then looking to the left and going, it's not where it needs to be quite yet.
Yeah.
We ain't playing Tulsa anymore.
No question. I mean, obviously during home games, we have a lot of recruiting responsibilities, but I always try to break off, you know, probably around the time that team runs out, and then like the 15 minutes when they're all kind of stretching and doing their deal and warm up, so that I can actually like go through and look at each of them. And like, it's like, it really makes you understand that if you're not diligent about it through high school recruiting and through body typing every player, you take 5, then you take 10 players that don't meet the physical requirements of their position, it's going to show up, and you can't do it, and you'll run out of depth, and you run out of the amount of players that are able to develop into what you need. So if we're able to get 4 defensive linemen that all fit our criteria with the traits that can be developed, and I feel like we have that in this class, the sky's the limit for each one of them. I couldn't sit here and tell you which one of them is going to turn out to be the best one, because, until we really get around them, it's the mixture and jumble of all their traits put together. And then, I do think we have the best strength staff in the country. I mean, Coach Nico is unbelievable building his players, both, the way he challenges them, the way he builds the culture of the team, but also getting them big, fast, and strong. And, we get body types like that with him. That's how we want to build it, for sure.
Stick with the O-line. A guy that is, to the fan base, or, to us, it was virtually unknown is Zachary Taylor. I mean, you look at his 24/7 profile, he doesn't have a picture, and he's got one offer, and it's from UC. So for the fan, it's an out of nowhere unknown player. Give us a little bit of background on him, how you guys found him, what you like about his game, and where you see this going with him.
Yeah, no doubt. I had to tell the 247 area person, Anna Hickey, or Anna Adams, that she needed to get on it and make sure he has a profile before signing day. But I waited till the week before, because I don't want any of these guys to have profiles. I'd rather recruit it when there is no 247, no offense, so that nobody else can look at what we're doing.
That's why we didn't have a profile up on him, because she kind of hit Keegan up and was like, hey, you're supposed to be on top of this, and we can't tell her back, no, we're not.
I defended you, but I didn't defend Keegan. Where is he, by the way?
We don't let him on camera very often.
Chad and I'll just make fun of him the whole time. So
yeah, it's pretty easy to do.
So Zach obviously plays at Camden County, which is a really, 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 really good program against good competition. And we're always searching for especially offensive defensive linemen that have developed through their senior year and gotten better. And we watched senior evals of, hundreds of offensive and defensive linemen. And I felt like Carter Wilson did a really, really good job of this. As long as they meet the height, weight, length, growth potential requirements for us, it really is just about the game tape. So yeah, he didn't have many offers. A lot of the best players that I've ever been around didn't have many offers, the ones that I've recruited at least. But we did a lot of research based on because he's from Camden County, so he's got to get up here, right? And we're not going to just waste our time if we don't think he's going to be big enough. So, I've fortunately, through our staff, me and several others have a lot of connections to different people around programs that had him in camp. And we even got video from them from what he looked like in the spring when they worked him out, and the progression he made through the summer into his senior year. And the tape was really, really good, undeniable. And we had to take him. And he's doing it against, highly rated defensive ends at these other teams, and he's dominating them and never gets beat. So we thought he played with really good pad level. He could bend. He finished guys. He had that reverse arc you like to see in an offensive lineman, strain to finish. He had long arms. And he's already over 300 pounds. He's going to be a moose. So, he's going to be an interior offensive lineman most likely. And, we were really excited about him throughout watching several game over game. It wasn't a deal where we saw his first game and said, all right, let's offer him. This kid's you got to see the whole progression of it. And, I felt like we did that. And I think we got a diamond in the rough with him for sure.
Marcus McGregor, late addition from a Wyoming commit, going to Iowa to get him. Is that a case of just seeing a guy that kept, like you guys talk about, kept improving, and we wanted to make a move on him. How did that come on your? Because he's not one that I don't think camped or did anything with you guys prior to his senior year.
Yeah. So, the process of which that happened, we had a defensive lineman we were looking at in Iowa, and Coach Stewart went out there to see him. And like we do with all the other coaches when they're on a trip, and this was in the spring, he's not just going to go to that one high school. So like he went to all the main high schools in the area, and one of them was Valley, and he saw that like he really liked this kid in the weight room. Now, we felt like he had room to improve from his junior tape, so we basically put him on our list of guys we're going to eval as seniors. Like it's pretty much as simple as that. Like at that point, you've either made the cut based on your tape or not, especially relative to their recruiting. So like we knew at that point he was like on track to be a group of 5 commit. So we could afford to wait through the season to see what we thought on senior tape. And at the time we were official visiting, several offensive line targets at the time. And as it goes in recruiting, sometimes like we want to battle the big boys, so to speak, for the guys that are on our list throughout June. And if we strike out, that's fine, because we know out of that crop of like 40 offensive linemen that have met some of the characteristics we look for, the cream will rise to the top. And Marcus was that guy. And, in terms of height, he probably doesn't have ideal height for tackle, obviously. It's not a 6'7" guy, but he has really long arms, and he had like a 6'11" wingspan. He's a guy that, can play tackle due to that length. And I think Iowa is underrated for their football. He's playing against good competition on a really good program. They had a player that we looked at late last year on that offensive line. And we felt, again, like Marcus was a guy who's had upward trajectory through his career from junior tape through spring, and then senior tape was really good. And that is what we're going to hang our hat on when it comes to, you get out of June when you're having a ton of OVs, you move into senior tape, and it's a clean slate for everyone. We're going to evaluate you just based on that and where you've come. So, we're really excited about Marcus. And beyond that, like he came on a visit last weekend for his official visit. His demeanor was like incredible, like exactly what you want in an offensive lineman. Like got the right look in his eye, looked tough, physical, like no nonsense. He didn't mind being out there in the cold, and
he's from
when he went
Iowa.
out, yeah, no doubt. Like there's a certain level of toughness that you expect, right? So, and then I'm friends with the Iowa State GM, and he's joking about I'm trying to get him fired by taking the Iowa guys from him, and along with Cam Neal, who his brother plays offensive line at Iowa State. So we were lucky that it timed up right, where we got in the offer right before Iowa State was gonna, or they saw ours, and like reacted to it to offer him quick. They thought they had Cam Neal in the bag the whole time, so because of his brother and that no one had really offered him. But, behind the scenes, it was kind of a cat and mouse game between us. And fortunately, we built the relationship enough. So when we offered him, he committed right away.
Last offensive lineman, and does he go by Cray or Sam?
Yes.
Or
Cray. Yeah.
Cray. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Seems like the most developed to this point has had he has like a offensive line coach and all of that stuff that was hyping him up and everything. Seems like a tackle. Seems, am I on the right track there with his eval?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think Cray comes in with like advanced technique. He's got good feet. He is big. I mean, he's tall. He's over 6'5". Good arm length, good enough frame. He's already over 290 pounds. we liked his junior tape obviously enough to really go after him after junior year, and also getting around his family. He has a great family. Being around him, he really is the type of kid we want, and that along the trenches is really important to us. Like, it's one of the hardest positions in sports. You're going backwards when they're going forwards, usually in pass protection, obviously, but like it takes toughness and grit to play offensive line, and he's about it. And I again, like I thought his senior tape got a lot better than his junior tape. We were really encouraged, honestly. I thought of any of our commits that we had committed going from junior to senior year, Cray might have made the biggest jump. And we could see that from when he visited, in the off season to then coming through the summer and then in the season. It's like your body's changing. You're kind of developing the right way already. So, yeah, we're really excited. And he's another guy that's coming in early. And all, three of the four are, Zach Taylor, Jeremiah Kelly, and Cray are all coming in early. So
flip it over to the defensive line. Start with Tim Griffin. I watched him. I liked a lot of it. Seems like he could be someone that has the potential to grow into an interior guy. Probably not something that's like determined yet. You got to get him on campus, see what they do. But he feels like a potential another big body to put inside.
Yeah, I think he's going to be gigantic. Like, he's 6'5", 265 pounds. He's got 6'10" wingspan, 10.5-inch hands, 34-inch arms. Like, he's going to be 300 pounds. And I was telling him this on his visit, and he's like, really? Yeah, like, God made you to be 300 pounds like that. Like, it's just what happens to guys that look like you. So, to be honest, where we see him fit is that end position to the boundary. Like, you look at where Iowa State, and I compare it to them only because Coach Vite's defense, number 11 for them is 6'4", 295 pounds. Like, this year we played Rob Jackson there, who's 270, and I think there's some similarities between Tim and Rob in terms of their play style, but Tim physically is bigger in all those areas, and we're hoping to get him to 290, 300 pounds and can be a power player. But those are the types of body types that are rare to find, and what we're looking for there for sure.
And the funny thing about that is, Zach, when Rob Jackson got here, everybody looked at him and said that is a mountain of a human being because he looked bigger than the AAC guys, right? Like, but when you compare it to Big 12 level guys, that's like the the smaller size of what they look like. Not
outside of Maje, you see it always had the 6'1", 6'2" defensive ends. So when you get a 6'4", 6'5" kid, they stand out.
Yeah, we want the ones that are short to stand out, and hopefully they're like Aaron Donald. You know what I mean? But like,
right.
If we build them all to look 6'3", 6'4", 6'5" with long arms, then we're headed in the right direction. And not to say like Rob has a good body type. Like, he's got really long arms. He's really, really tough. But like, when we're seeking to recruit for that end position, like, Tim Griffin's that recruit for that in terms of body type.
CD McPhee.
Dave and I are working towards 300 pounds, but we don't have the body type to carry.
No, my wingspan is not quite, ideal.
Mine almost fits in this tiny little screen.
Yeah, exactly.
We're all made to become a certain weight. That's right. You know what I mean? Like,
it's taken a lot of work to get to the weight.
I think I'm way past that number.
and a lot of Cincy Light.
Hey, man, keep drinking. Keep drinking.
Yeah.
Am I allowed to say that stuff?
Yes.
Yeah,
you can.
sure.
It's fine.
CD McPhee's an interesting one to
here.
me because as a Tennessee fan also, he had a defensive line mate that one of the best players in the state, so he was seen, but yet seemed to still kind of fly under the radar a little bit and has that, I guess what I think is that true like nose in true interior body type. Is that
Yes.
how did that kind of come about? Because like Marion Dye got all the pub, but then he's sitting there right next to him, for them, and doesn't seem to be getting the attention that I thought he would probably get or should get. Is that another one where you guys were kind of like, let's keep this one as quiet as we can for as long as possible?
Yeah, in hindsight, we probably should have, but we just, we were one of his teammates' first offers. And obviously he decided to go in another direction, but it's like the inverse of Jeremiah Kelly. Like it's the opposite, I guess, of Jeremiah Kelly. CD played a lot of offensive line as a junior and still did even in the early stages of his senior year. Like it's almost like after we offered him, he started playing more defensive line. But how that happened was, obviously we're going through that school, and Coach Stewart, took a picture with him in the off season and took a picture of him in the off season. And, we're looking at that and we're like, dang, this is a rare body type, and he wasn't there yet as a player. Like, and when I talk about we're going to get a bag of traits with these guys, I think CD McPhee is like the prime example of that. Like, has he put it together yet? Absolutely not. Like, and he knows that. We've been very clear with him that it's going to take a lot of development, but that's the body type that we need to develop. You can only develop 6 foot, 260 pounds so much versus, legitimately 6'3.5", 285 pounds, and like extremely long arms. I think over 34-inch arms, really, really broad. And, I talked about Carter Wilson in the press conference. Like he is finding these guys at a rapid rate. Like when he is in like an NFL GM, I'll go back to that press conference for Carter, but I think one of his most proud moments of his career so far was we're in the locker room after I can't remember which game. It might have been Houston, but CD is in there, and we have several other recruits that really look the part. And D'Artagnan Tinsley comes up to CD, and they compare hand size, and like DT has like the biggest hands like ever measured, basically for UC. And like he's like, you've got to be kidding. And like he turns to Carter, he's like, where are you finding these guys? And like I was like, Carter, that's a great moment, man. Like, so while CD
second biggest hands ever at UC.
Who are the biggest?
Well, football maybe.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. We're
There's a basketball player.
Here, man.
He was 6'10", 6'9", 6'10". His name was Coriante DeBerry. And literally, Dan Horde has a picture of Coriante's hand outlined, like the turkey outline, with Dan's hand in it, and it looks like a toddler. And Dan Horde's not a small guy.
He did it with D'Artagnan this year. He had it on there, but yeah, I mean, that's what you want to see, and those are the type of guys that you have to get to. Then it's on the coaches to develop them and take those traits and turn them into legit Big 12 football players.
Yeah, and when I say that he has length, clearly he has growth potential because he's going to be not 285 his whole career. He's going to be 330, 320 probably, and without being fat, he's going to be lean. That's just the way his body's built. Oh, there you go. Jeez, what? Dang. That's unbelievable.
It was a catch. It was a legit human catcher's mitt.
He could like hold the basketball on each side, and his thumbs would touch.
Yeah, he can crawl on the ceiling. That's incredible. So, but anyway, and then when I talk about explosiveness, like the basic traits every player needs in our program, like you could see that through CD's tape, and if they don't have those things, it's impossible to develop them. So when we're looking for developmental traits, those are the developmental traits. So
hold on.
Okay. Oh, sorry. What do you got now?
There you can see
there he
his
is.
hand inside DeBerry's hand and how much smaller it is.
Wow, that's crazy.
Sorry, sidetrack. But if his hands are that big, it's massive mitts. Gigantic.
Yeah, but
it
was a cool moment for Carter. Yeah, cool moment for Carter for D'Artagnan Tinsley to be in awe of the size of a couple of guys that he thought were diamonds in the rough. So
you talked a little bit about Cameron Neal earlier. I'll put kind of him and James Early together. Early seems like he could, because of the height wise, he's probably got a ton of room to potentially get bigger. But are those your kind of true more rush ends in this group?
Yeah, James for sure is going to be a Leo. You know, he's probably right around 220 pounds right now, but he's got like an unweight trained frame. Like you can tell he hasn't spent much time in the weight room, which relative to how his tape looks is we view as a real positive, because once he does, then you just get better and better. So we thought he had the pass rush skill that you're really looking for, like, you know, initial get off and quickness, the ability to bend the corner, the ability to redirect and finish at the quarterback. And he had pass rush awareness throughout the year. And, you know, that, again, that length is hard to come by. And we felt like, again, I'm preaching to the choir here, but like he really got better from junior to senior year. And there is a whole host of defensive linemen in Indiana that were kind of grouped in with him as senior evals. And, you know, some went to other Power 5 schools, and we thought James was the best one on his senior tape, along with, you know, having the better measurables. So, again, like Carter did a great job finding him, and Coach Walt did a great job recruiting him. And yeah, we're really excited about him. And then Cameron Neal, I'd say it depends on how he develops. Like he might get really big. Like he might get to 270, 280. He's already 240 pounds. He's kind of has a Marquez Parker-ish build. A little broader, not quite as like
linear.
Not quite as big in the lower half, but we can play with a Leo that's that big. I think in an ideal world, as long as they have pass rush trait, it's probably what Coach Veit wants. And he did. Like it. We liked his tape early in the season, and then as it went on, he had a foot injury after like week 3, missed a couple games. Towards the end of the season, he really turned it on, and it convinced us, honestly. Like, you know, I like when I talk about all the factors to become a pass rusher with the explosiveness, get off, ability to bend, you know, he has power as well. And then I'm sitting there in the Iowa State game, watching how big his brother is. I'm like, this is genetically different right here. And, you know, so I think Neal is going to become a really big guy, but, you know, he still has that athleticism, which obviously is huge.
We'll stay on defense, go to the secondary, and start with CJ Crate. Had some buzz in the offseason from 247 and one of those anonymous, you know, scouts / GMs that, you know, a lot of teams seem to like him. You guys were in on him early. I remember, you know, when I first got word of him and watched some tape on him, just a ridiculous, like, leaping, falling backwards, touchdown catch, just seems to have a lot of athleticism and just overall potential that, you know, you kind of get him here, get him in the weight room and almost see like, okay, let's just figure out where this kid can go, because who the hell knows right now.
Yeah, I think in his evaluation, a lot of it benefited us in the uniqueness of our defense. You know, we're looking for that star position back there at the middle safety, to where, he's kind of be like a ball playing Jesse. Like he's, Craig plays offense and defense, plays receiver. He has good ball skills. And on defense, he is extremely violent. It's rare in high school for a linebacker who currently is under 200 pounds. He'll be over 200 pounds pretty easily based on his frame. But it's rare to see a guy with that weight just completely run through offensive guards when they're pulling. Like, he has a unique trait to be violent, and that's required at our star position. So that's what we recruited him for. And I think a lot of teams down the stretch, like we built a very good relationship with his high school coach. It's from rural Georgia near Augusta, like great coach, old fashioned guy. And after he committed to us, he'd let us know when other schools were coming through and like talking to him. And, and we were nervous for a while, honestly, but I think a lot of teams might not have known what fit he had because he's playing linebacker in high school. And we see him playing that star safety, which is kind of a hybrid role that not many teams have. But it's required to be, violent, physical, durable, fearless, and just a football player. And Crichton checked all those boxes. Like when we do the medical checks during the OVs in June, I can't remember who it was, Aaron or one of our assistant trainers was nicknaming him the Predator based on just the way his body is built with broad shoulders and long arms, big hands, all that. So yeah, we're very excited about CJ.
Patrick Williams, I believe, was the first defensive commit. So obviously been, in with you guys for a while, won a state championship. Those are things that I know you guys are, most programs are always looking for winners and the winners and the multi-sport guys. But with him being in for so long, I'm sure you guys obviously you like it when guys commit, but is that almost harder then? Because it just gives more time for 17, 18-year-olds to change their mind and more times for teams to evaluate and see that, we're not going to get this guy, and now we're going to go after this guy. Kind of is it kind of a catch-22 basically is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it can be at times, I think, because when you're committed to a school, it's like the first thing people look up. Let's look at what the commit lists of these schools when they're trying to find someone, right? So, but I think when a guy commits that early and does stick with you, it really, really speaks to their character, what they're all about, and the fact that they really want to be here. And, Pat has been that way from the get-go. Like, we had him at camp going into his junior year, and that's where we offered him. He displayed incredible cover skills in terms of, quickness and agility, especially at the break point and like feet and transition. And I thought his junior tape stacked up with any corner in the country when it came to all the cover traits you look for. But not only that, like we saw it in camp, his competitiveness and you can only be so physical at camp. You're not wearing a helmet, you're all that, but you could tell he had a physical demeanor based on the way he was playing. And it shows up on tape too. He's not the biggest corner. He has to punch above his weight class a little bit, but we thought he had rare cover traits. And as his junior year went on, he became our number one target at corner. And then we were able to hang on to him, and, he picked up other offers, and he never even wavered, which testament to him. In this day and age, everyone seems to be wavering and playing their leverage in a certain way for their own benefit, which I can't blame the kids. That's just what we're dealing with now. But Pat was one that was steadfast from day one, and we're really excited about him. I think he has the potential to be a shutdown corner.
How do you say the name of his high school?
I have no idea. Raven Gap.
Raven Gap?
That's all I can know. Raven Gap. I don't know the last name.
CJ Kool-Aid Jermaine Jones. I believe I'm right in saying that you guys saw
He wins the
him.
award for the most names.
Most names, right.
Yeah.
I saw him at a camp, and he has rare length and speed. Am I right there for a guy his size?
Yeah. We initially evaluated him like based on his junior tape. We thought he was, extremely fast, had really good cover skills, but also had the ability to tackle. And like you were talking about with the camera angles and whether you can see how long someone is and all that, like we didn't know it, but when he went on his visit, he's like right at 5'10", but he had like 32 and a half, 33-inch arms, which for his height is crazy.
Right.
Anyway,
I mean, for people listening, like 32.5-inch arms is kind of like the cutoff for guards to get drafted in the NFL.
Yeah. So
you
like
have a defensive back in high school with the same arm length of like NFL guard.
Yeah. Like we look for our offensive line to have ideally 33.
Right.
If you're 32 and a half, it's okay. But obviously 32 and a half is the average, but if we're looking to be above average, we want to set the standard at 33 and go back to it rather than average, whatever. But if the guy's like 30 and a half or 31, it kind of checks the boxes. If they're 29, we're like, uh-oh, he's 32. We're like, this is ridiculous, right? And so he's about 180 pounds, but his frame too was really long. He had a 6'4" wingspan, which we want every single player on the team wingspan to be at least 3 inches more than their height, hopefully 4 or more. There's a correlation between obviously physically your growth potential and all that, but also athleticism. It's proven over time. But anyway, we looked up every single player on UC report history, the last like 6 classes, I think. There's like 4 or 5 that ran sub 4.5 with a 6'4" wingspan. And UC report is like basically where a kid will go to an Under Armour, ESPN, or various camps, and they upload the video and they have all the testing data so that we can access it. And he measured in at like 5'9" and change there. So I think a lot of people, you kind of write him off, but you have to do some more digging to understand what his real true length is with his arm length and stuff. And like I said, we were able to filter through the wingspan and his 40, and it's electronic 40s. So like when I was at Ohio State, as a rule of thumb, we would always take a tenth of a second off for like when we're comparing it to camp with the hand time. So like nobody runs fast at UC report. He was like 2 guys at his whole camp out of 300 people that ran under 4.5. And he was one of a handful in the last 6 years at that length and speed. So yeah, he's really, really fast, but he's also a great kid, great family. And we see him starting out playing the same position that Derek Canteen and Logan Wilson had played this year, where you're playing to the field at safety, a lot of nickel responsibilities and cover traits required. And we can't get enough guys that can cover people. They're just hard to find real cover players. And in the Big 12, we're playing a lot of passing teams. So and more cover guys with cover traits, the better. So he played a lot of corner in high school, but we see him playing field safety.
Finally, this one came in at the end of the night, right before we came on here. Jamari Johnson, Pell City, Alabama, I believe first ever. Maybe I don't know if it's Power 4 D1, but they were hyping him up as like the first.
Yeah.
Is it the first Power 4 signee or just Division 1 signee that they've had?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I saw the same thing. Pell City has become a pretty darn good program. Like they have a bunch of young guys that are going to be Power 5 guys too. Rush Probst was the coach there for a year, like 2 years ago, and kind of got him rolling. So, but
before he did his usual stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy he got Jamari to Pell City, and that's where we found him.
Yeah,
but So it's funny how this stuff works. So we had no room in our class at the time to take him, and we thought he was really, really good. So Joe Disher was a intern of ours last year, and he went
Big
down
Joe.
to. Oh yeah, he's awesome, the man. So he went down to Troy to work in their recruiting department, and so we gave him to Joe. We're like, hey, listen, yeah, I know. I apologize. He's probably not watching. He's probably got better things to do. If you are, sorry, Joe.
Hi, Joe.
But we told him about him. He ended up committing to Troy. And then obviously Ohio State came in, and I had word from my old boss there that they're thinking of offering one of our guys. So we're starting to think about contingency plans. Just in case we're unfortunately not going to win that battle. So we want to have a backup plan in place. So we had always liked Jamari. Early in the year, we watched his tape, and his play demeanor and his play temperament and aggressiveness really stood out. And so we didn't really tell Joe till the last minute, but we had always wanted to find room in the class for him. We didn't know if we would have room or not. And then we were able to, obviously, to have another spot open up. And the other thing that makes Jamari really good is it is rare on high school tape. I do not see it often where a player plays corner, safety, and will linebacker in the same game, series to series, changing and lining people up the entire time. So clearly he has a really good football IQ. He does all those positions at a high level, playing aggressively, high contact player with cover traits and ball skills. So I think he might be able to be a Swiss Army knife depending on, how big he can get back there. So.
We got a couple questions. We'll ask a couple questions for you real quick from folks listening. Randy wants to know, is there a recruiting program department that you guys kind of use as a benchmark? I mean, I know you came from Ohio State, Western Kentucky, you develop your own stuff, but then you also get stuff from Mark and people at Ohio State. Do you guys kind of look at them as how you've modeled this, or is it kind of a little bit of different programs?
Yeah, that's a great question. Initially, a lot of it was ideas I had taken from Ohio State. I was at Western Kentucky for 5 years before that. The recruiting department was me and another guy, so not exactly the same. So based on how it was organized at Ohio State, we kind of took that and tweaked some things. And I've had to a little more since, especially with the way things are going with revenue share and just different amount of time it takes me to manage the roster and the salary cap and all that. So based on that being on my plate, I figure just the way we need to organize it is a little different. But to answer your question, it's essentially Ohio State's. Now, I will say, when I'm thinking of building a department, it really matters the people you have and what they can do. So coming in here, I knew that Jack Griffith was really good, and I knew Cass Simmons was really good. And then Carter had come with Coach Satterfield from Louisville. And I had heard some great things about him. And then Caroline also came from Louisville as well and heard great things about her. And then Ashley was from the Fickle staff, and then she moved on to basketball. So we had an open spot to where we could kind of figure out what we wanted to do with it. So, and that's the real change from Ohio State to us and how we structure it. Not to get too nitty gritty, but if Jack and Carter weren't so dang good at their jobs, I'd probably be able to structure it differently to compensate for all the needs we have, which is evaluate the portal, evaluate high school, communicate with the players, organize the visits, manage it all, along with the roster and kind of overseeing the next level of the evaluation. So It's a great question, but that's kind of how we structured it.
And then we got one here. Darren wants to know, how do you guys balance the recruiting department and the coaches with what they want from a scheme standpoint with what we've talked so much about of the measurables and the benchmarks and the prototypes?
Yeah, it's another great question. This year, especially on defense, we've had to adjust a lot based on the scheme, and this is unique defense. So, like when you get the research we do based on the NFL draft and what the average measurables are, like, and they're saying an edge player, it's like, well, it's not really us, or like there's no star in that.
In the
so
NFL.
so we've used I've researched basically all the players that Iowa State played with since they created that defense with Coach Veit, to see what their body types were like, along with meeting with him a lot on what he's looking for. And then offensively, it does to get the measurements, it is pretty simple. NFL, like the scheme plays less into it, I think, than defense, but we do look for certain types of players that fit what Coach Sat wants to do. And like this year is huge for us. Like, to be as explosive as we want to be, we got to get the receiver room right through the portal with explosive playmakers. And that's what we plan to do. And that's really going to unlock the next level of things to where we're not going to go, or don't have to go 10, 12 plays to score a touchdown. And, I thought Evan Pryor brought a big element to that this year, and it's not enough. We need more of it. And that's the goal. And then to answer the question, one more layer is beyond the NFL measurements, a lot of data we get from UC report, which I mentioned. Their data can go back to like 2020 from when it started. So we've averaged out all the signees from the Power 5 programs and then Big 12 programs of what their measurements were on UC report. So if you're looking at a guy's on UC report with his height, weight, and what his 40 time was with no context, you don't really know whether it's good or not. It just adds a layer of, all right, this fits or is better than or a little worse than what the average is for the Big 12 and in that.
Right. Go tight end. You went too deep there, and two guys that are I hate using the term because it gets used so much, but like freaks from a standpoint of height, length, lining up outside. I know Damari's lined up a bunch outside. I've seen Kamari play a bunch because he's in the same conference that my buddy coaches defense up in just south of Dayton, so I'm familiar with him. But those two guys seem like they're two, and Kamari was in very, very early, and then Damari was more of a camp guy. So kind of talk more about those two guys and what you see from them as tight ends and how they fit.
Yeah, it's funny. We saw them both at camp 1 year apart. So Kamari came to camp in 2023. We basically had him shut it down after half the camp. We're like, all right, we've seen all we need from you. You can go off to the side here. Don't injure yourself before your season. Like, he was really impressive, just how long he is. And, we feel like he has enough room to add the weight to get to 250 pounds pretty easily, and kind of graceful ball skills. He's going to work on his initial quickness off the line and ability to separate, but he's a glider with really long strides, and he certainly has potential. Like most tight ends in high school, has a ways to go in the run game, which I haven't been around many high school players that don't at that position. Damari, though, is the rare exception where this year we were actually really impressed with his strain and finish in the run game. Like, you can tell he has a demeanor to get after it, blocking. But he had missed his whole junior season with torn ACL. So we had heard that he was kind of like tearing up the 7-on-7 scene in the spring. So Coach Stepp made sure he got to camp, and we had a tight end committed, and we had another tight end coming on an official visit the next weekend. And Damari comes to camp anyway, and he tore it up. It was so impressive that we were like, nah, listen, like, we've had a relationship with this one guy for like however long, 6 months or whatever, and we think there's a good chance he's going to come here, but you have earned an offer. And he hadn't had a Power 5 offer at the time. So we're like, it's not right for us to not offer you based on what you just did on the field. We've also had an ongoing relationship with another tight end we're going to try to get next weekend. And like, we're going to try to make room for you if we can. No promises. But if for some reason this kid makes the wrong decision, we want you. I felt like that was the respectable way to play it from Coach Stepp. And I also told him, I was like, hey, after this, you're just going to get like a bunch of Power 5 offers. And those came in a little later, but fortunately, like, we didn't get that other kid. And there's a vast difference in their talent based on their senior tape. It's hard to take 3 tight ends in a class, so we would have really had to work to make room for Damari. But yeah, he's a stud as well. So we feel really good about those 2 tight ends.
Linebacker, 2 guys from Columbus, Terrell Holcomb and Miles Harrison. I'll start with Miles because I hope you guys make me look smart again. Last year, I was huge on Marquez Parker. You had him and another guy in camp the same time. You offered him. I watched both their tape. One had 10, 15 Power 4, Power 5 offers. Marquez had none. I said, I don't understand. This guy's better. I watched Miles Harrison, and I go, I don't understand how 247 has him as the 128th ranked player in the state, and he was committed to Buffalo. He gets his burst off the line and havoc with his hands is you don't see a ton of high school linebackers do that. So am I missing something, or is everybody else missing something with him?
Obviously, we hope everybody else is missing something, and
because he's good. He's my Parker this year. So Marquez played early, made me look halfway smart. Hopefully, Miles does the same thing.
That's the plan. He's another guy that'll be here in about a month, as an early enrollee too. But Coach Veit went by that school in the spring and like was raving about him, and we thought he had some work to do after junior tape. Based on his senior tape, I don't know if there's a better pass rusher in the state of Ohio, honestly. Now, when we're looking at that, like in our defense and the fit, right? Like it gets back to the listener's question there. Like we don't play with like it's not a Leo or a dog, what we used to call it, right? Like I guess we play with a Leo. We call one of our 5 techs a Leo, but like we don't play with a jack linebacker. Like, so we're projecting him to play Mike. And early on, when a guy's playing on the edge like that, you obviously can tell he has a tremendous pass rush trait and his explosive get off is really good. But there's a lot of trepidation in moving a guy off the ball, right? Like you either have the instincts or you don't.
Right. Are you a 2-point stance, just go every play?
Yeah.
Or can you actually re-diagnose and do all the other stuff you have to do 4 yards off the line?
Exactly. So like I think seeing how Jared Bartlett made that transition in 1 year, playing that outside linebacker rush end position for West Virginia and then moving to Mike for us last year and having a lot of success, that honestly gave us a ton of confidence that Miles is going to be able to do that. And we got him for 4 years, So I think the sky's the limit for him. And he's going to be really big. Like he's another guy that, you look at the height, he's 6'1.5", which for an edge player isn't above average, right. But for a linebacker, it's right there. But what made him good at the edge is he has like natural leverage with his arm length. And obviously the explosiveness is there. And he can like his pass rush speed to power is really good. And so, yeah, we're projecting him off the ball, but also Jared Bartlett was like top, I don't even know the stat, top 5, probably even better maybe in the Big 12 in sacks. the Mike, when we're going to add a guy to the equation there, instead of just rushing 3, it's usually the Mike. And so, I mean, we got no issue adding good pass rushers in every phase we can. So we feel like his pass rush trait's going to even be another plus at the Mike position.
And then Terrell Holcomb, what are you guys?
Yeah.
Not late,
the
but
conference player of
more
the
so.
year.
Wasn't the like the how we see the timing work nowadays. It's like early summer, middle summer, you have your whole class pretty much. Most places have their whole classes pretty much done. Where did he come in, and how do you guys see him moving forward?
Yeah, kind of after the season when we got here with Coach Vite, we're rewatching all the recruits. You know, kind of start fresh, look at the whole board, and it felt like he elevated himself at that point in our minds to where like we're now running a 3-3-5. We got a Sam linebacker, and he's a natural fit for that. Like he did some unique stuff on high school tape as a junior, playing safety, but also like kind of dropping down a little bit. And you know, we know a few things. He can run. He can really, really run, and he's physical and fearless. And you know, just by nature of how he's playing that overhang as a senior, like early in the season, he didn't get a lot of like action kind of out there, kind of like a goal day for us early in the season. The ball wasn't coming his way. And then late in the year when he's involved more and he has a chance to be more than 1/11th the defense, like he started to make a ton of plays, and he had a really good senior year, won conference player of the year. And yeah, we're really excited about Terrell. Like I think body type wise, he's similar to John Thompson, maybe a tad bit taller. And you know, I think he has a bright future for sure.
Got one wide receiver, Gio Contosis. Put up big numbers this year for his high school team. You've already talked a lot about. You talked about it earlier today. You talked about it on this, just about portaling wide receivers. We'll talk about him as well, but just as a whole, is that a position that maybe becomes more of a portal position just because of wanting to see production? It's just harder to, I don't want to say project, but like outside of the Jeremiah Smiths, you don't see a ton of young guys come in and make impacts at wide receiver in high school. Or from high school to college, you see a bunch go from college. The really good ones go from college to the NFL and make that impact right away. But you know, is that a position that you're always going to take some if you feel like they can be developed, but it's harder to expect to get something out of them right away?
Yeah, I think every year there's more receivers in the portal than any other position. So just by sheer numbers, if you're looking at what is available, I would say it's easier to get a receiver than a guy in the trenches. It's never easy in the portal. That's obviously not what I'm saying, but I think too, we took 3 receivers last year. We wanted to make sure we got size in the receiver room out of high school this year. I think Gio is a natural receiver. Like he can dip his hips, he's a good route runner, has good explosiveness, really good hands. We're really excited about him. And his demeanor too, like when he's on these visits, like you tell when a kid likes football, doesn't like football, or really loves football. And like he's not with his team who's on the rest of the visit hanging out off to the side. He's like right with our receivers in practice, watching how they're getting coached, watching everything they're doing. And we really like Gio. I think he has, you know, he's about 6'1". He's going to be 210 pounds. He's going to be able to win some physical matchups on the outside and be a contested catch guy, but also have the ability to create separation within the route. And but yeah, to answer your question, I mean, we planned to sign 2. Now there's ways around that. Like in the portal, we can take a long-term guy that's basically like a high school guy. Like I've spoke on the fact that I think whether it's high school or portal, sometimes like you're acquiring players and how many years they have left, you almost view some of the portal guys as high school guys, you know? But we plan to take 2. We end up getting 1, but we're really excited about Gio. And then we obviously know this year's a big class to hit on in the portal due to the attrition we have on the roster. So certainly it helps to have a really good quarterback who is doing a lot of the recruiting on his own too. So
speaking of quarterbacks, Zeb Kinsey, you guys went on him early, which is really what you have to do with quarterbacks nowadays. There's really no sitting around. How did that work with him coming off an injury? And then what kind of stood out and what did you guys see from him this year? Again, he only, I think, played 3 games last year, so it's not a great comparison, but you guys went on him with that knowledge, and then where has he kind of gone this year in that year post-injury?
yeah, Zeb came and threw for us in the summer of 2023, and kind of going into it, like some schools were recruiting him as a linebacker, others as a quarterback. So we had him throw for us, and we were really impressed with his arm strength. Like it jumps out right away in that workout. And then also at the quarterback position for us, the baseline requirements are obviously have a good enough arm, be a good enough athlete, and be durable enough to take hits. Like you've seen the way Sorsby's run the ball this year. Like if you're not durable, you're going to get hurt. So along with the mental part of the game, which is harder in high school to evaluate than in the portal at quarterback. And then, I mean, that's what separates everybody at quarterback in the end of the day. But so we saw him throw for us. We really liked him. And then early in the season as a junior, like he displayed high-end physical traits at quarterback. Like he could make every throw on the field. He was starting to develop some touch. And, he was running as like a powerful big dude. Like he's 6'2.5", 6'3", 230 pounds. Like he's a load. And, there's one play in his junior year where I think this was a year ago. I've watched too many players between them, but he created a fumble, recovered the fumble. The very next play throws a 50-yard touchdown pass. I had not seen that much on tape. It's very unique for him to play, and he's playing linebacker and he's running through people. And then his senior year, I felt like he continued to develop touch on the football. The big thing for Zeb is going to be to harness the mental aspect of the game. He played small football. But, when you talk to him, you can tell he's extremely bright, and we feel like he's going to be able to get there and make that jump. But very clear he had all the physical characteristics required based on his tape for sure.
Last one, running back Zion Johnson. I mean, you put the tape on, and the dude is, like you talked about with Evan Pryor, I mean, total game breaker. You get 2 guys, him and Tim Griffin, from the same county in Georgia. I assume they played against each other this year.
They did, yeah.
But I mean, his eval seems pretty easy. Give him the ball and watch him run away from everybody on the defense.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, obviously some are easier than others. When he has that type of speed and acceleration, it's pretty cut and dry. Like, and he's bigger than he looks on tape too. He's got a thicker lower body. Like he's going to be able to be powerful enough, I think. But he's made progress his senior year too. Like one of the things that really stood out to us when we watched him this year was that he turned from just a home run hitter with just kind of more linear and vertical speed to he's running hard. He's making people miss with his feet, kind of running through tackles, finishing runs, more of a complete back this year. But he can outrun angles. I mean, the speed jumps off the tape, and we're really excited about adding an explosive guy like that to the fold for sure.
1 or 2 guys that you feel have the chance, if things go their way, to play immediately, and then a couple guys that you are really excited about the development potential of?
Great question. I think Zion Johnson has a chance to play early. that nature of that position, you're able to create roles for people, and obviously he has that speed trait we talked about. It would not shock me if a couple of those offensive linemen, got in the too deep. Like, some of them are really ready-made, honestly, with their skill set and the way the tape looked. And I think Pat Williams has a chance to come in and contribute early. He is an extremely gifted cover corner. And then from a development standpoint, I think, going through the whole list there, we touched on a ton of them. To single one out, I'd probably say, let me think, kind of shooting fish with a gun here. You can kind of pick any of these guys, but I'll go with one of the tight ends. Like, I think Damari Witherspoon with, you think of a guy that is still reaching his untapped potential in football because of the injury as a junior and then playing this year. And, he reminds me of a guy that I recruited at Western Kentucky named Josh Simon, who then transferred to South Carolina and is one of the best tight ends in the SEC this year, but just explosive, long strider with really good speed and the same body type. So I'm really excited about him, but excited about, I think we have a class full of guys with developmental potential that are going to be looking really good.
I have one that kind of came up on the board today that I'm interested in your thoughts on. You guys obviously are not at the point of like an Ohio State or everybody's talked about the $20 million roster or whatnot. When you're dealing with limited, and I don't think limited is the right word, because I think it's grown and I think you're in a better place than you have been in NIL. But in comparison to that, when you're trying to climb that mountain of competing with schools that have a head start and are a little bit farther along, maybe, when you look at like the three categories of high school, portal, player retention, how difficult is it to kind of figure out what goes in what bucket? Because I compared it today to, like, you're buying a new house and you need a living room set and you need kitchen appliances and you need a washer and dryer. And if you try to buy, like, you're not going to be able to buy high end in all three. So you're going to have to figure, do I want the nice stove, or am I going to get the leather sectional? How do you navigate kind of that allocation? Because obviously probably the biggest thing is retention with guys that and you want to keep. But you have to have the development aspect of the younger guys, and you also have to be able to go out and get some big hits in the portal to fill the holes, fill the gaps in between. That's a GM's job, right?
Yeah, no doubt. That's what makes it exciting, honestly. I think you put it the right way, essentially. Like, that's a great comparison.
Thank you.
When
I'm an analogy guy. I got one coming up in basketball. I can't wait to get Dave's response to.
I think, to answer your question, it starts for us with retention. Like, that's what happens before we go into the portal. Like, sure. Portal visits start next week. We are retaining our guys on our roster. We've made the decision that we're not going to overspend on high school players. And I think that is the smart decision for multiple reasons. Number one, we don't want the culture on our team to be affected by young players who haven't earned it, or not young, like literally guys who haven't done anything at the college level. And then I also think in the high school level, there is a drastic difference in a player who is considered like good because they have a high rating, who all of a sudden is costing hundreds of thousands of dollars, versus someone who doesn't have as many offers even, or is not highly rated, and the cost to get him is a scholarship. It's like, oh, it's huge, the difference between there, and it's not worth it. So if you're gonna develop a player over 2 or 3 years, you're paying for his development essentially by buying him in high school, right? Not to get too matter of fact with it. And, clearly we don't care about what our rating is. The best thing you can do is out-evaluate people in high school by getting guys with developmental traits and developing them and then retaining them when they're good. It's cheaper to retain players than get them in the portal. That's always going to be that way. But there has to be a balance of all of it. And, like you're talking about the pie that we're playing with versus the Ohio States or Floridas or Michigans, right? Ultimately, we're faced with a decision of, are we going to bite that bullet to win the publicity of getting this guy who's marginally better than the player we're going to get for free? Or are we going to use that to get an immediate contributor? And that's the decisions we're ultimately faced with now. And I don't think in every case the player that we're going to get around the corner is any worse than the one we're going to give up by deciding not to overpay. And maybe I'm going to be wrong with the test of time, and that's fine. But that's the decision we're making, especially when we've got guys like, Jack Dingle, Jonathan Thompson, Gavin Gearhart, like obviously Dante and everyone else too, but like guys that have been through the ringer here and have earned their stripes. And you got a guy walking in the room that hasn't earned it yet. So those are the decisions everyone's faced with. And I've talked to GMs across the country in all levels, and we're all basically talking about the same thing, but it's like, what strategy are we going to use to try to be the best we can in this? And I do think the strategy we have is the best, and or the optimal strategy. And we'll see what happens, but I think we're on the right track. And it's not like we're not competing on the same level with some of these teams, like we are, but we're not going to sacrifice our future just to win a recruiting battle in high school.
So high school is the washer and dryer because you just need a washer and dryer, right? The washer and dryer doesn't have to be fancy. You just need a functional thing to clean your clothes. That's high school. And then retention, that's a tough one. I need a good stove and I need a good fridge. So retention is the kitchen appliances, and then the portal is the living room set.
Sure.
Yeah. I guess I mean, the thing is though, we value them all the same. It's just like the cost to acquire.
Right, that's what I'm saying. You can get a nice washer and dryer. Yeah. Like, you're not buying a $600 living room set. That thing's crap, and it's not going to be comfortable to sit on.
What I really hope happens in college football over the next 4 to 5 years is every single contract becomes public. And I think I'm going to hurt for the players in that if they're not performing well, all their stuff's out in the open, but that way every fan and everybody has an understanding of how it really works, and what certain teams are not only working with, but what they're allocating to different things and how they're building the roster, because everyone's unique in it. And I think it's going to create a cool perspective, and it'll also make our jobs easier when, you end up shadow boxing versus you don't know what's real, and you're not going to ask your buddy on the staff that's recruiting the kid, because what are they going to, they're just going to lie. So
right.
That would help even it all out, but we're working with what we got now.
How many are going to be here for January.
13 of the 19 will be early enrollees. So
Okay.
that's big for us to be able to get those guys in and working with our strength staff early.
We've already kept you here for a long time, so I'm going to ask you a half-hour question.
Oh,
Will that change? Will that change next year with the revenue share? How much does all of this change with revenue share?
The last long question I answered, or
Yeah.
No,
Just in general. How much? You can buy a nicer washer and dryer with revenue share.
You can.
Hypothetically.
Everybody else has revenue share too. So we're still competing. Now we are going to benefit because the rules are going to be, it's going to be harder to get around getting over the salary cap, right? Like
some places it just means more, Zach.
100%, but
go Big Orange. Hey, you say whatever you want. We got an $8 million quarterback. We're in the playoff. I don't give a shit.
Yeah. It makes it easier in some ways for us. We've kind of always, since NIL operated under a salary cap, like it's not like we could have gone and done whatever. We're under the assumption we have a certain amount of money, but now that number increases and it comes from a different funding source. It creates changes in who you have to deal with. Like there's more agents and stuff in the game, kind of like basketball now, but you're dealing with them more because you're recruiting more people every year. So what never changes is you need to have guys with a mentality that is about their growth and becoming the best football player they can be. There's so many ways kids can get caught up in all the other things between like right now and next season that if they're not focused on reaching their potential, they're doing us a disservice, but they're also doing themselves a disservice. Like you could have a freshman who starts. If he's not committed to being better as a senior, the NFL doesn't care if you start as a freshman. They just care about what you become. And I tell that to our guys all the time. Like what you are now is not what you can become. It's not acceptable to not get better. But if the guys don't have that mindset, then there's no chance in this world because they're going to get pulled in so many directions and get caught up in everything but becoming the best versions of themselves. So we truly believe that is overarching in all of our evaluations, that we need guys with the right football character.
I wanted to ask, you mentioned something in the press conference today that I actually put on in a comment on the board, and you talked about not focusing on the guys that decommitted and focusing on the ones that signed, and that the battles that you won down the stretch. Are you willing to go a little deeper on any of those battles that you won? I mean, you don't have to necessarily call out individual players and individual schools, but just that is one that fans always like to try to get a little bit of insight on.
Yeah, no question. I mean, there's always been a lot of schools trying to recruit Pat Williams. He was steadfast in his commitment to us, so I felt like, we were going to be good there, but that was always in the back of my mind. And, Zion Johnson is another one, like, especially being from down there, a lot of schools in SEC country were sniffing around and poking around. CJ Crite, same thing. Cray was one that didn't post his offers that he was continuing to get, and same with Jeremiah Kelly, but we were communicated that they were there, and we're just kind of trying to hang on with them and have those conversations. And Damari Witherspoon is another that he got some offers that he did post, and fortunately we had, just by the way the timing worked out, the official visit was saved kind of till the last weekend, and we were able to close that one. And in every instance, like, and part of it's like, so those are specific battles, right? But like, part of it's the way we graded these guys. Like, we thought some of the guys in our class were better than the ones that were getting like poached or taken or whatever you want to say, right? So it's like, all right, well, if they're going to offer that guy, like, let's hope they don't offer this one because this one is actually like we like him more. You know what I mean? So like, it is what it is. I mean,
I'll tell you what.
In the end, like I'll forget about the ones we lost. It all that matters is the players you're playing with. You know, that's truly all that matters. So
You send me all those offers that they didn't post, and then I'll put them in the system, and it'll make the fan base feel better about.
Yeah, now that
there's no need.
Now that there's
It's water under the bridge now.
Now that they're signed, yeah, let's load them all up in there.
I want them to be mad when they get here because their ranking was low. If their ranking is low. Then.
I do have a portal question, and this is one that I'm very interested to hear your answer on. Because it works out well because there's no secret here about the wide receiver position. So when you're evaluating portal wide receivers or even portal like skill position guys, how do you balance the older guy with production versus younger guy who either hasn't produced yet or just hasn't seen the field, or even like in a Joe Royer case, older guy without production? Like, you can't always just go on production, and you can't always go on, this guy was ranked, top 70 rated recruit 3 years ago. And I always go, well, then why hasn't he played? Why is he transferring? But how do you guys balance that out in the eval of, we like this guy, there's no production, or we like this guy, he's young, we don't know, kind of thing? Like, how does that work, especially at wide receiver?
Yeah, I mean, that's a battle we constantly fight. Like, there's several players that we watched throughout the year that were like, this guy needs to get more targets. Like, he's athletic, he's creating separation, he just doesn't have production. And then there's other guys where it's like, wow, this guy has over 1,000 yards, but like we don't see any traits. And like, they have to project to our level, first of all. So if it's like FCS and group of 5 guys, like their traits have to be good enough to win at our level. But yeah, I think it's a mix of both. Like, if they have less production and just more raw athleticism, but multiple years left, then it becomes more of a no-brainer, A guy that has 1 year left, the expectation is that he's coming in to fill a specific role, or else you can't really stomach taking one just for a year for no reason if he's not filling a specific role. So there's always a plan for those guys. And then as it relates to the Royer case, I think for us, that's going to happen really rarely. Like, we're going to watch the tape on the guys and not really go by any referrals we get for guys that haven't played. Royer is unique because both Coach Nico and myself were at Ohio State and saw exactly what he could do. And I knew firsthand the type of player he was, regardless of the playing time he got there. But just on paper, Royer's career at Ohio State wouldn't have garnered our attention necessarily. Just on paper, if you were like, obviously he was from Cincinnati, so we're going to look at him no matter what in the portal. But if just exactly what he did on paper, it's like, okay, well, what's wrong? In those situations, you wonder what's wrong. That's my first instinct. I get it, but why didn't he play? So like, it's always like, a lot of times a guy gets in the portal and a high school coach will hit up one of our coaches and be like, hey, I got my guy in the portal, he's interested in Cincinnati. We pull him up. It's like, he hasn't played. So I don't know. We got to go off of something. And
here's his high school tape.
Yeah,
he's 23, but here's his high school tape.
Those are the ones I always laugh at when they get posted by like 24/7 or whoever. It's like, so-and-so's in the portal. He was a top 50 guy in 2022. I'm like, well, he's not a top 50 guy anymore. Because if he was, he'd be in the NFL draft this year.
Yeah. Well,
it is what it is. He was number 35 in the class of 2021. In his career, he has 4 catches for 72 yards.
Yeah.
Do you
And
guys
that's what makes the portal imperfect, you know.
Do you guys
because-
feel just having this second year truly working the portal, is it a different grasp of it, or is it kind of just the same year in year, from last year to this year?
So far, pretty much the same. I think after a year dry run, so to speak, of going from being here during the season, like that first year we got here, like I got here in January, so we're behind to begin with. But like last year, we're here during the season where we did a lot of advanced evaluations on guys, went through the whole cycle. And then in the spring, where we reevaluate kind of what our best practices and processes are, right? So I felt like Jack has done an even better job in terms of being early and diligent and organized with, those evaluations on the front end. Because, like, I mean, matter of factly, right now, like, you have your spreadsheet rolling on who goes in the portal, but we're dealing with, like, we're in meetings with players about convincing them to come back or not, or like, whatever the case may be. And then signing day, there's a lot of things happening right now to where there isn't time in the day to watch every single person in the portal. So like if those evaluations don't happen on the front end, you simply will lose guys in the shuffle.
Right.
And it happens quick. So if you're late by 4 days, even like talking to a kid, he might have like 3 visits set up and be like, well, you didn't like me. Why are you talking to me now? All these other schools have talked to me. I'm visiting this, and this. So like, it's imperative that you're early on it. So far in terms of the numbers of guys it all seems the same. We'll see come the 9th really when they're actually in, because we got a lot of announcements now, and we got a lot of grad transfers, and we got a lot of guys from coaches that have been let go in the portal. So when it actually opens on the 9th, I'm sure we'll get a little bit of a free fall, and then that's where the fun begins. So
and then you get the really fun part where the teams in the college football playoff are playing until like February. So all of their guys aren't going to hit the portal until the portal is essentially closed.
Yeah, like good luck getting into school in February, but yeah, just say there was a player on a team in the playoffs that we really wanted and we knew might get in the portal. It's hard to sit on our hands all December expecting that guy to get in. What if every other team in the country wants him and we're not able to get him? Then we just struck out. So like, it's hard to put yourself in that position. And we've thought about certain situations like that, especially with the FCS playoffs coming up. And we plan to be as aggressive as we can be in that December window before Christmas. And then there's some more visits in January. We'll utilize that if we need to. But the key rule that changed.
What's the number? Sorry.
Go
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was saying the key rule that changed from last year is they changed the signing documentation to where portal guys who sign are locked into the schools. So we can avoid any situation that happened last year where certain SEC starter left us after Christmas.
No names mentioned.
I know.
How about this one? 5-star cornerback, Oregon signee Naeem Offord flipped to Oregon because Phil Knight told him he's going to help him make his shoe.
Nice.
Yeah, unfortunately, that one had some dominoes that ended up affecting our class. So I guess I should be mad at Phil Knight.
Probably should.
Yeah.
Probably should.
What do you think as of now the number looks like for you guys with this portal group?
We'll see. We're always going to try to get up to 85 every year, and so depending on what we can retain versus not, and I'm confident right now with where that's headed, and the guys we want to keep. So it'll probably be 12, 13, 14, maybe 15. You know, it just, a lot of it's player dependent, and then how we're going to allocate our resources or spread them out, you know. But, you know, if there's an extra big body sitting out there, we're going to take it. And we have some spring numbers to work with. So,
And then outside
Come
of
on,
wide,
Dave. We've been
What?
it's an hour and 40 minutes
I was
killing
gonna
this
say,
guy.
outside of wide receiver, what else are you guys
yeah,
honing in on?
in general terms, pass rush and cover players, you know, areas where we struggled a bit this year, you always try to address them. That's obvious. So, and then, you know, we'll probably attack a running back as well, and feel like we got a good plan there. You know, we've replaced a couple offensive linemen that have had really good careers here as well. And that's always a challenge in the portal, but I feel like we got a good plan there too. So, last year we ended up taking 26 guys in the portal. Obviously that's more than we would like to in any year, just because like you get into just end up by nature of it, you got to take depth in the portal, which is never what you want to do. So, this year the number's smaller, and hopefully we hit on just as many as last year, if not more. And the goal is to be better. So, we got to go do it.
Half or so, roughly, at least in this window, and then the spring. Who knows?
We try to get all of them done
13.
in this window, man. All
Yeah.
of them. Yeah. But
That's why I say the spring. Who knows? You could have
exactly.
2 spots open in the spring. You could have 5. Like, you know, you don't know what that looks like until you get there.
Yeah, we'll aim to fill all of the spots now, and then see how the chips fall and adjust based on the spring.
All right, man. We appreciate your time. I know it's been a long day. Dave will sit here and ask you questions for another hour if we let him.
That was all of them. I'm good.
Yeah, we checked it. We got them all done. That's good.
Good.
I appreciate you guys.
Appreciate you, man. Thanks, Zach.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, guys.
Get some sleep. There you go. Zach Grant, GM of the Bearcats football program. And I know people say like he thinks he's the smartest guy in the room. I never get that impression from him. I never know where that comes from. I feel like he just answers honestly, and you know, tells you exactly what they're thinking.
I said today, I don't think it's about being the smartest guy in the room. I think it's about mining the margins and understanding some of the obstacles that everybody should know that they are up against.
Yeah.
Like, they don't like, and he pretty much alluded to it. Like, they don't have, like, things are getting better. They don't have the money to compete with the SEC and the Big Ten if those schools are willing to pay high school players.
Yeah.
They just don't. I mean, it's not like a we don't want to. I'm sure they would love to. But, you know, just use it. Use Jordan Woods as an example. You know, that flip from Ohio State, they probably knew that was coming. The kid that flipped to Oregon.
Yeah. And
so they go after Jordan Woods. And maybe they didn't offer him a dime and they just played on the Ohio State part. But maybe they just said, here's $100,000. And to them, that is nothing.
Here's 50. Here's 75.
UC
whatever it is,
have
right
that money to give to a high school kid. And now maybe they will when revenue sharing starts, and maybe they will when the Big 12 money truly kicks in. But like right now, if you're ranking where should the money go, I think the money should go first and foremost to the good players on your team that have proven that they can play. Then it should go to good players in the portal that have proven they can play on the level that UC needs them to play. And then if there's money left over for really good high school players, great. But that's not who if I'm up against it, that's not where I'm allocating my funds.
Nobody's going downstairs to check your washer and dryer, Dave. They're looking at your living room set and they're checking out your fridge and your stove. They're not going downstairs to look at the washer and dryer.
Right. So, I mean, I appreciate him for coming on with us. He's always, I don't think he ever dodges any questions. I don't feel like, people in the press conference, I didn't feel like I needed to bring him up, but like people in the press conference today asked about the lack of Cincinnati guys. And I don't think they're active. Like, I think I said, I don't think they're actively trying to offer kids that don't have a bunch of P4 offers. They evaluate them. They think they're good. Maybe other teams don't. Or maybe other teams think they're good, but they get their A guy or whatever. And so they don't have to offer the guy, or, who knows. But bottom line is, just got to be better on the field. And, part of it is a big part of it is recruiting. Big part of it is the portal. So we'll see what happens in the portal starting next weekend.
No, starts sooner than that, doesn't it? Starts early next week.
Well, it opens the 9th, but the first visits, I would.
But names, we should start getting a sense of names and who's visiting and all of that good stuff coming up next week.
And it does seem, I'm not going to disparage anybody, but it does seem that to date, guys that have gone into the portal from UC are, we haven't seen any of the holy shit, like Dane Key, for instance, jumping in the portal from Kentucky, 5th leading receiver in school history, and the legacy. I'm pretty sure that was a shocker to them. Yeah. Well, maybe not to them, but to everybody on the outside, it was a shocker.
Sure.
So, I'm sure you got to pay some bills after that segment.
Let's pay some bills. Turtles Brew, 0 sugar, 0 carbs, gluten-free, bourbon-infused sweet tea. They have strawberry mint. They have cherry lime, raspberry peach, orange vanilla, lemonade tea. Over 50 locations in Greater Cincinnati, more than 100 in Ohio. Visit turtlesbrew.com for more information and locations. I did use, I think I used the orange vanilla as a braise when I put the pulled ham. I put that in the base of it so it braised in the juices, covered on the smoker. So, and then I took a couple of the pouches to Thanksgiving dinner, and I went and looked where the beverages were, and they were gone.
There you go.
Just got swiped up by my family, and everybody was like, "What? Those were good. Where'd you get those?" And turtlesbrew.com for more details and locations. And I'm sure they're all going to be big Turtles Brew fans now. So there you go. Also, Home Field Apparel. Unfortunately, I think the Black Friday deal is over. We're back to normal deals, but that's okay. Go to homefieldapparel.com. They have the best collection of vintage, old school Cincinnati UC gear. They have everything you could think of, essentially. They have T-shirts, they have crew necks, they have long sleeves, they have hoodies, they have joggers, they have socks, they've got koozies, they've got jackets, they've got bomber jackets, they've got coaches jackets. If it's UC related, you can find it at homefieldapparel.com. Use code BCJ24 for 15% off of your order. And look, I know Christmas is supposed to be shopping for your loved ones, but sometimes you got to shop for yourself. So if you don't have any loved one, or if you go shop for your loved one, maybe Dave gets his lovely wife a Michigan State hoodie, and while he's there, he grabs something for himself in the cart, because it's okay on the holidays to love yourself, Dave.
That's right.
And I have to buy my own gifts now, so. Or have my daughter say, "Dad, can I have your credit card? I need to go buy you a Christmas gift."
I would just tell her I'll just buy my own gift, because then I know I'll get something that I actually want.
You want her to buy you something? The thought of it. I'm going to buy myself most of my Christmas gifts. Don't get me wrong. I've already got a couple hoodies on the way. I'm going to get myself some stuff, but you do want her to have the opportunity to go and do some shopping for me. Any chance of a retro uniform helmet game in the future? I don't know, Randy. We miss you too, Ron. It would be nice. Yeah, I don't know. We miss you too, Ron. All right, let's get to it. I'll just open it up to you, Dave. Villanova wins 68-60. Cincinnati didn't play well, and you can adjust your level of concern to that. That it was, the first big test. Although I think if you're watching some Big 12 teams tonight on the road at Big East opponents, the results might surprise you a little bit. Although Kansas has started to come back against Creighton. Creighton was up big early in that one. UConn knocks off Baylor. So last night was not a shocking deal. That, the line was pretty low, and you get nervous when that line doesn't, especially like when the Ken Pom metrics spit out like 3-point line, and you're like, I don't.
Yeah.
Maybe this one's not what I thought, but
yeah,
Villanova controlled the game, Dave, pretty much from start to finish.
Yeah, I don't know if it's just the way I have become now, but like, I can't get fake mad about a December 3rd road loss. You fan however you want to fan, but I got some pretty good laughs off of Twitter last night. They didn't play good. They didn't shoot the ball good. I am concerned that we're 6-7 whatever games in, and we're one of the worst free throw shooting teams in the country.
I don't put too much into that, Dave, because they don't get to the free throw line.
I think we should put more into it, because if you don't get there often and you are under 50%,
not under 50%.
As a team, they said that last night on the broadcast.
Well, I guess a lot of that is Dylan Mitchell is like 1 for 17.
Unless they're wrong, which they could be. Who knows?
Yeah.
They didn't shoot it well. I don't think, he made several tough shots, but I did not think they guarded Eric Dixon very well at all.
The funny thing about that is, Dave, when they actually did what the game plan was, which was to force him to take shots from 7 to 15 feet, he wasn't super effective.
Right.
But they didn't do that enough.
He was essentially 50% on twos because he made everything inside of 5 feet. He didn't, he hit those 2 threes at the end, but he wasn't great at,
he was 1 for 5 up until then.
I think I was joking to myself. It's like, at times the way they were guarding him was like, if I was supposedly the best player, it's like, you guys knew who was going to get all the damn shots.
Yeah.
He
took 23. I think the next closest was 8.
You knew who they were going to run actions for. Whether you knew exactly what the action was going to be, you kind of knew, and then he still did the thing. I don't know.
Wolfie, calm down. Dylan Mitchell has made a free throw. Dylan Mitchell has not made a free throw. I don't care. I don't know if he's even been close yet. He has made a free throw. Now, he has missed 16, but he has made one. He is, I believe, 1 for 17 on the season. He did not attempt one last night.
I think if I walked out on the floor right now, I could go 2 for 17. And I haven't shot a basketball in a regulation hoop in years.
Here's my favorite part about that. He has now made more threes than free throws for a guy coming into the season that had never made a three in his career. Now he's made 2 threes and he's made 1 free throw.
Yeah. I also think that it's important to get Dan Skillings back. Is that a revelation? I don't know. And maybe that's part of the and maybe he still has a while to come back, and maybe he misses Xavier and Dave. I don't know the deals, but maybe that's part of the reason that I wasn't, throwing a fit last night. I'm like, so they lost a game on the road where they didn't play well, and in my opinion, didn't have their most important player.
He changes so much of the dynamic of the identity of this team.
I mean, I imagine he probably would have guarded Eric Dixon a lot.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
Who would he have guarded then?
Probably Poplar, who had 10 rebounds. So that would have been, if Dan gets 3 or 4 of those rebounds, maybe it changes a lot of the flow of the game.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just.
And I'm not absolving them.
Are you ready for my analogy? Are you
like,
ready?
I'm not absolving them and just saying, like, well, if Dan was there, but you have no idea who's going to be held. But, like, you got to play. Like, they didn't play good. I mean, sometimes they're not going to play. Sometimes they're not going to play good. Guys missed open shots. They didn't play very well on the defensive end. I didn't think they didn't get the ball. We saw, outside of Day a little bit, I didn't think they did a good job attacking the basket, or at least not forcefully enough. Like, I didn't think Villanova was some great defensive team. No. And, it was a bad game. There's probably going to be 1 or 2 or 3 more of those this year. So, like, they're probably going to go on the road in the Big 12 and not play well at times. Doesn't mean that, like, we need to start, like, questioning if they're good or not.
Are you ready for my analogy?
Give it to me.
Okay. Last night, I've been listening. I know you probably have been too. I've been really enjoying the new Kendrick Lamar album. I know it's probably been heavy rotation for you. Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah. Okay.
So my brain has been on music.
Yeah. Okay. So what's the analogy?
He's the guy that no, it's not Kendrick Lamar related. It's just music has been on my brain. So I got a music analogy.
Got it.
Villanova last night was like a rock band with like the Rolling Stones. Like, Eric Dixon is Mick Jagger, right? He's out in the front, and he's and he's got some solid musicians behind him. They're not great, but like Mick Jagger is the show, right?
Yeah.
We talked about this coming into the season. I said one of my biggest fears was they don't have a top 100 player. They are going to play a bunch of games where the other team has the best player on the floor. I racked you know what Cincinnati is, Dave?
No.
Cincinnati's a boy band. They're a boy band.
Boy band. Well, which
and right
one?
Right now they're in sync.
98 degrees?
No. Right now they're in sync, and Justin Timberlake's got like laryngitis. Like he can't. He sprained his head. Justin Timberlake can't dance.
This is easily one of your dumbest analogies that you've ever come up with.
That's why I love it. But getting back to the joke of that is they need 3 or 4 guys to all be playing well together and off of each other for them to reach. They don't have, we're going to throw it to Eric Dixon and he's going to shoot it 25 times and there ain't really shit you can do about it.
We're okay living and dying with that because we know he's damn good and we're probably going to live more times than we die. And sometimes we're going to die to teams like Columbia because Eric Dixon just goes 8 for 25 instead of 13 for 25.
Well, the problem I thought was, Dave, is
you take that back, Wolfie. Wolfie, take that back. I went to the New Kids on the Block concert at Riverfront Stadium when I was in 2nd grade. Sat in the dead effing last row and didn't hear one song because of all of the girls just screaming the entire time.
I thought they let Brickus and Poplar play too well. Like, Dixon is going to get his.
Right. Well, Brickus hits that shot at the end of, I mean, really, I hate distilling it down to like 2 possessions, but like the last 2 possessions of the first half set the tone for the whole rest of the game. You started off playing like shit. You battled your whole way back to be down 4 with the ball, and then you give up 5 points at the end of the game.
Or at the end of the half.
End of the half, I mean, to go right back down 9.
And then you give up 4 right out of the break. You're down 13. You had a chance to cut it to 2 with 15 seconds left in the half and 2 minutes into the second half. So in a span of 3 minutes, they go on a 14 or 13-0 run.
Yeah.
And you're down 14 or 13 or whatever.
Yeah. Hold on.
15. I don't know. Whatever.
Wolfie, Donnie married Jenny McCarthy. That is a successful career.
I mean, not for long. And she married to like Jim Carrey now?
Well, I mean, he did marry her. I thought it was the other way around.
Oh.
They're still married. It's still Donnie and Jenny McCarthy.
Yeah.
Sorry, I don't follow NKO TV. I'm more of an instinct guy.
Jordan Knight with the black Batman T-shirt. I know all about that stuff. That was
so yeah, right now, Dave, the Bearcats are a boy band. They don't have their lead guy, and the other 3 guys didn't have their they were off rhythm a little bit. I don't know any of that. JT Chavez, is that in sync?
JC Chavez, yeah, I don't know.
We've derailed
this. We've derailed this hard. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like,
I was 1 for 2 on analogies tonight. The one in the recruiting section was really good.
Are there things that like concern me? Sure, but not enough to just all of a sudden like change my whole mindset of who this team I think can be. So I don't know. Maybe I'm 100% wrong on that. I don't know.
Does it put more pressure on the Xavier and Dayton games?
Sure.
Absolutely. Yes. Sure does. But I mean, it wasn't like anybody was going to feel good if they beat Nova and lost one of those 2 games.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of my thing is like the idea of maybe the loss to Nova in some eyes is worse because of the way Nova started out the season.
Sure.
But then if that's the case, then beating them wouldn't have made some people feel any different moving forward, right?
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that makes sense. I don't know. I kind of just go back to my original point. Like, they don't have their what I think is their most. I'm not going to say best player, but what I think is their most important player to how, if everything is working, how the roster is constructed, how minutes are like. I think we're seeing that like Connor Hickman is probably, because Dan is out, having to be used in a way that ideally he's not used.
Right.
And so if, hopefully Dan comes back, hopefully Dan's healthy, sooner the better, all that. But I just kind of go, it's a 30-something game schedule and you lost a game the first week of December on the road. Like, I can't get like wildly dramatic about it. Maybe it's a precursor to 10, 12 more losses. I don't know, but anybody saying one way or the other is kind of like just totally guessing.
Yeah. And you lost on the road to a guy that is essentially going to be I would be shocked if he's not a first-team All-American. He's number 2 in the country in scoring right now. If you play in a major conference and you're number 2 in the country in scoring, you're on your way to being a first-team All-American, I think.
I would think. I mean, I think.
Is he the best pro prospect? No, but that's, there's been a lot of first-team All-Americans that weren't pro prospects or whatever you want to say there. But no, ultimately, Dave, they didn't play well. If you want to blame West for that, blame West for that. If you want to blame the players for that, blame the players for that. If you want to blame both, blame both. If you want to blame the schedule, blame the schedule. In a vacuum, in a one-game sample size, they didn't play well enough to win. And, you know, I don't know how much more they're like, how, you know, you can get into the weeds on it. Like, you know, everybody's upset that they had a bad lineup out there for 2.5 minutes, where they saw the game go from a 4-point game to a 6-point game. If that's what sunk your battleship, is you had a bad lineup on the floor for 2 minutes that saw the lead increase by 2 in that time span. If that's what lost you the game, then you probably aren't any good to begin with. Well, Natty Ron, we can't move on. Like, we do a show that talks about these things.
I got nothing to move on to.
Look, if we just moved on after a loss, like, we would have had a bad foot. Like, the last 2 months would have been not great for our sponsors.
Wouldn't have had much to talk about on the brunch.
Or the BBP, or the BCJ Pod, or the Nightcap, or George in the Jungle.
Georgia in the Jungle, we wouldn't even have a show. There's nothing good to talk about with any of the teams.
Yeah, Aaron talks about Cincinnati sports on Tuesday nights.
The Reds
we had
might
to move on after a loss.
The Reds might get that Winkler guy back, or Winker, whatever his name is.
Yeah, the guy the Mets hated and then loved, and now they're going to hate him again, right?
I don't know.
You're a big Mets guy.
I'm like, let's calm down. Everybody knows that my Mets fandom is only to get me to preseason or like football camp. They can keep my attention that long. It's a successful summer.
Yeah. Look, got to play better. Your best players have to play better. You know, I am always in that camp, Dave. Like, when you're in these big games, when you're in these games against good teams, your best players have to play at a high level. And if they don't, you can't be surprised when you lose. And I don't know, like, I guess you could say Jizzle played pretty well. He was 8 of 18. He was 2 of 6 from 3, and he missed one of his 2 free throws. Yeah, he had 4 rebounds. He had 5 assists. He only turned it over 1 time, so it wasn't a terrible game for him. But I don't know that I would say he played great. And Seamus did not have a good night. Dylan did not have a good night. Like,
I mean, I don't think anybody particularly jumped out and
I don't either.
And played that well. So
I don't either.
You know, but again, I think you're going to have multiple games like that.
Sure.
Whether it's you or the opponent dictates that, like, you know.
But yeah, I thought they did a good job. They played some defense that they hadn't shown coming into the game. That threw off Cincinnati's offense a little bit early. And then they switched to the zone, which they hadn't really played all year, which I know everybody says, like, well, you got to be ready to play zone. Well, if you don't spend, like, if they don't do it, if they don't put it on tape, you're not spending a lot of practice time on something that they've never done. Like, that's just, you know, like, I don't know what else to tell people.
How about the 6 blocks to none number?
Yeah. And for a team that they don't really block shots, and Cincinnati has been one of the best block shot teams in the country.
4th in the country.
Yeah. They didn't block any, and Nova was swatting that shit all over the place. I don't think they went up strong. I didn't think they were like,
no, there was a little element of toughness lacking. Like,
agreed.
They kind of got punched right away and didn't really have an answer to it. Like, Nova came out shooting hot, and, you know, they didn't, you know, on the defensive end, they didn't get those 2 or 3, 4 stops in a row. Like, you know, I know coaches talk about, like, I don't know, everybody's got some acronym or something they call, like, 3 kills in a row or something.
A quote unquote kill. A kill.
Yeah. Like, in that stretch at the beginning, like, they never, and for most of the first half until the end of the first half, like, they really didn't, as their offense was not playing at a good enough level, they never really, like, dug in defensively and and kind of stalemated until.
Well, they did twice when they closed the gap from like 5 minutes to 1 minute in the first half.
I mean, that's what I mean. Like,
apart.
not until the end of the first half.
Yeah.
Like, essentially the first 15, 16 minutes, once it got to that 7, 8, 9, 10 number, it just kind of stayed there.
Yeah. So yeah, they didn't play well enough, and they faced a Villanova team that was, hungry. And this is another thing I wanted to get to. This team is going to, and last night was learning the hard way. You got a big number by your name. You came in top 15 in the country, and teams are going to look at that and say, okay, a team like Villanova that didn't have a good start to the year, and they're looking to get their season back on track. You're not going to get them on an off night. You're not going to get them playing lazy on defense and not, closing out ball screens and getting out on shooters. And you're going to get their best shot. And they have to be ready for that if they plan on being a team that competes at the top of the Big 12, wants to get a protected seed, like all the things that we've talked about with the potential of this team. One of the things you're going to have to learn is you don't get anybody's night off. You are not the team that they overlook. You got a big number by your name. You got any number by your name. They're going to look at you and say, we got a chance to get a big win tonight. And they didn't play like the aggressive team. They weren't the team that took the fight to Villanova. Villanova took the fight to them. They fought back plenty, but you don't want to put yourself in that position where you're constantly swimming upstream against a team that feels like they've got a chance to get a big win.
We've always talked about, like, when you get down and you have to exert all that energy to fight your way back, how many times do you see where, like, teams down double digits, they fight it all the way back to tie it, or they're down 1 or 2, and then the other team just puts it back to 5 or 7 because you used all your juice to get it back to even, and you just don't felt
we
like
saw
that
it tonight. Marquette got down big to Iowa State. They came all the way back. They tied it up. As soon as they tied it up, Iowa State went on a 14-0 run.
Yeah, I mean, you had back-to-back 10-0 runs. Like, Marquette went on a 10-0 run, and Iowa State answered it. Like, I guess maybe I think we're still too early in the season to say, like, I don't know, but, like, in a situation like that, West can't do it all. Who is the guy on the floor?
Right.
That kind of, not that you got to be yelling at your teammates. You earn that in practice and in the offseason, but, like, this team feels like when the shots are going in, not that they're front runners, but, like, when the shots are going in and they're playing well, they can beat anybody.
Yeah.
But who's that guy that kind of says, like, okay, this game is getting out of hand. Let's make sure it doesn't get out of hand.
I will credit, they didn't let it get out of hand last night, and they could have.
Yeah.
I mean, they continued to battle back.
But they're going to be playing much better teams than Villanova in the Big East or in the Big 12. So, like, who's kind of that leader that exerts the toughness and that through everybody and just says, guys, like, we haven't been playing well yet in this game, but this is not going any further than this. Like, we have the talent, but it's, how does that happen on the floor? West can only rant and rave and scream. And I mean, not that he's like a crazy person, but, like, he can't make them do that.
No. All right. You got anything else you want to get to tonight?
I don't think so.
You got a Simone 6-pack for conference championship weekend?
Yeah, all of them. Just watch them all.
Well,
I think they're all within, like,
breakdown.
I think they're all within, like, 5.5 points. So, could potentially be several good games. Which one am I
breakdown,
most?
go. SEC breakdown, go.
Georgia stomped Texas in Texas first time around. Now it's in Atlanta. Longhorns, I guess to me didn't look great against A&M. I don't know. That one
Georgia.
Going Georgia there.
Big
Oregon
Ten.
is like
Oregon,
the least talk.
State.
Oregon's the only undefeated team in the country.
Nobody's talking about them at all.
No, not at all. Like nothing. Nothing. Which just seems weird. I think they're going to dog walk Penn State. I just don't like Penn State. To me, I don't understand how they're ranked where they are. Just does not make sense to me. Don't see what the committee sees in them. Don't see the resume to be ranked that high.
Iowa State, Arizona State.
The wide receiver injury for Arizona State is very, very concerning. Like I saw some number, I'm not going to know I forget his name off the top of my head, but like he had X number of catches or targets. Like every other receiver has like 40 catches. Like they have no passing, like very, very little passing game without him. I feel like
and Iowa State's pass defense is outstanding.
Right. I like Iowa State. I love Kenny Dillingham. I love Cam Scatabo, but I don't know. If you can't, like we saw, can't throw against Iowa State, good luck.
Yeah.
I like them. What's the other one? SMU, Clemson. I hope SMU wins because Clemson to me has no business being in the playoff. So, I hope SMU wins to also keep Bama out because I don't think they have any business. Well, no, I don't know if that would work. I don't know. I paid so little attention to the playoff stuff.
No, I think you would need Clemson to win and then SMU to get in over Bama, which there's no fucking chance.
I'm torn as a Tennessee guy. I hate Bama. They do have good wins. They also have a terrible, terrible loss to Oklahoma. I do want to see them have to go to Notre Dame and play in the cold in December with Marcus's defense. I will enjoy watching that happen.
Yeah. I guess what's the other one? Boise State and UNLV.
Boise State, UNLV. I mean, favorite of the brunch, Ashton Genty. Definitely going to watch him. We got Tulane Army, I think. That's a fun game.
Yeah. Although I think Memphis is probably the best team in the AAC.
For the AAC. Tulane Army. Is that it? I think.
Yeah, and nothing else that really. I mean,
Miami, Ohio.
Yeah.
Miami. Hat tip to Tim Albin, OU's coach. That roster got absolutely crushed in the portal, and so did Miami's. I mean, Miami lost several very, very good offense. They're running back and wide receiver. But I think it was 9 guys that started for OU last year went to like P4 schools in the portal.
Didn't Miami's kicker go somewhere in the portal?
Yeah, Alabama.
And I hadn't really heard.
Hadn't heard that. Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they stole him.
Hadn't really heard anything about.
They stole him. But yeah, I think just hat tip to him, hat tip to Chuck Martin. I think it's hard. It's hard for those guys. I mean, we talk about it with UC, and more so on like the high school side. But like in the MAC,
you're losing stars. Like
you're losing like
the best players.
The best players, and then they turn around and go back to the the conference
Yeah.
championship. So good on them. We'll be rooting for OU in that one.
I won't be rooting for anybody in that one. It's the MAC. I don't care.
Yeah.
All right. You done? You good?
I think so.
This one went a little over our normal 2 hours, but Zach Grant was very gracious with his time and answered a lot of questions and gave us.
I do want to laugh. One basketball thing I want to laugh about. The SEC went 8-1 last night in the SEC ACC challenge, and the one team that lost is Kentucky. So
yeah,
it just means more everywhere else except for Lexington, apparently.
But there are 16 games in that challenge, and the ACC clinched a tie yesterday. They won 8 to clinch a split. And I think North Carolina got smacked
by out. North Carolina, I think I just saw, has given up over 90 like 4 or 5 times this year.
Yeah, every time they played a good team, they're getting just scored on relentlessly. How'd the Big 12 do? Well, right now I'm looking over, and Baylor lost to UConn, and Kansas is down 71-57 to Creighton with 4 minutes left. So that Big 12 Big East Challenge not looking great for the Big 12, which lovely. Go TCU tomorrow. That's all I got.
Go watch the second half of Auburn Duke.
Yep, that should be a good one. All right, that's going to wrap it up. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks to Zach Grant. Thanks to Cincy Light, the Holy Grail, Turtles Brew, Home Field Apparel. We love all you guys. We'll see you next week. This is the BCJ Podcast, presented by the Holy Grail, right here on BearcatJournal.com.